McLaughlin, who's playing Rug Delver, will do against
Mr. Dan
Jordan. And I think that I'm going to give this matchup advantage to Morgan McLaughlin because Dan Jordan has abandoned Rug colors. And I know he's been mostly playing Stoneblade style decks in Legacy. However, to my mind, if he is not RUG, I don't know.
I mean, I played Rug today and did not do too well, but Dan Jordan leads off with a fetch into Underground Sea. What is he turn 1 in a Thoughtseize Inquisition or Ponder, I guess?
It could
One
be
of those
one
four
Ponder,
spells.
Thoughtseize Inquisition,
Yep.
or a very crazy Brainstorm.
Or a very crazy Engineered.
Now, Engineered Explosives is super interesting. I mean, you can drop it for 0 against a flipped Delver.
Mm-hmm.
And dropping it for 2 against Tarmogoyfs in the plural seems awesome.
Yeah, Morgan is going to Force of Will.
Wow.
This Inquisition. I don't like it. I mean, this is
his hand better be insane.
Yeah, this is an attrition war. I can't see what card is worth protecting in your opening 7, especially with all these must counters. Like you have to counter Stoneforge, you have to counter like a Jace if it gets to that point unless you're very aggressive. Like not big on that play.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I don't see anything in his main deck that is worth that kind of protection.
I mean,
unless he only has just one creature.
Yeah, it could just be one Delver, but it's a Mongoose.
I mean, if that's his only creature, I could give it a slight nod if it was his only creature in hand.
Sure. And Nimble Mongoose is really good in this matchup, so protecting a Nimble Mongoose is actually pretty relevant.
And then we get the Braincestral Recall, a main phase Brainstorm with a fetch land. 2 cards go back, and they can go away forever for all Dan Jordan cares.
He might draw one of them.
And Dan Jordan is not. He does not yet have the deck list for Morgan McLaughlin, so unless he knows Morgan is not playing Stifle.
Yeah, most Rug decks have shied away from that. He would have probably cracked there if he was afraid of it.
Right. In for 1, Nimble Mongoose. I think I've been seeing him through the Star City Games Open Series in about 15 to 20% of Rug Delvers. Rug Delver right now is probably the most popular deck in our Open Series. Wasteland and Dan Jordan fetches here at the end of the turn.
All right, so Dan really needs to find an Engineered Explosives or something like those are the only ways you can actually deal with a Nimble Mongoose, but you don't want to give Rug too much of an early board position, especially like he has a Jace that he wants to try to protect. So hopefully he can find a Stoneforge Mystic. I did see a path, I think it was a Swords, I know it was a white removal spell, that'll take care of this Delver. But yeah, a Nimble Mongoose can eat away at a Jason Mind Sculptor, so.
Path to Exile in this matchup is the best removal spell ever for Dan Jordan. Morgan McLaughlin, 0 basics.
Force Will off the top.
Island Plains. And away goes the Delver.
Morgan goes back up to 20.
Nimble Mongoose, only 2 cards in the yard.
Yeah, it's fine. He can peck for a little bit. The match, like you can tell, like they're just having this dance for a long time.
Yeah.
It's gonna go forever. Unless Dan's hand was super weak, which it does seem it was. Like using an early Brainstorm isn't something you actually want to do.
One thing you're going to see with how this game plays out, in games 2 and 3, the number of Force of Wills for both players should diminish incredibly. This is not particularly a Force of Will matchup.
No, especially if since Morgan did see the black and an Inquisition, he should guess that there's Lingering Souls somewhere. And yeah, like Force of Willing half of Lingering Souls feels really bad.
And Delver again. Dan Jordan.
I think he's going to force with Force, yep.
Take that, Delver.
No!
Jeff Goldblum, Vincent Price, take your pick. And is this going to be land go? Yep.
Yeah.
Drago.
You should, at this point in the game, especially since you're only getting hit for 1, don't walk into a daze.
Nimble Mongoose
is going to
go for 1.
Yeah.
13 more turns, this game's over.
And
actually, I will predict that within 13 turns, the game will be over. 13
You know
full
what?
turn cycles.
That it will be over.
Yeah.
I was curious why they had you come into commentary, but I mean, it's amazing. It's like,
And here we have Dan trying to decide if he wants to get some action on.
yeah, I mean, he has a
Caracas.
fifth land. I could just see him running that Jace out. Like, I guess he has to play around Spell Pierce too. And since Morgan did pitch Force to Pierce, there's a good chance that he has one of them, especially since he hasn't like brainstormed or anything. I wonder what's going on in Morgan's hand. Like, we have just seen a couple dudes and one counter spell.
Maybe his hand is like Bolt, Fork.
It could be.
And maybe, or it could just be reactive spells like Pierce Days.
Mm-hmm.
You can't cast those unless Dan does something.
Yeah, it's a lot of cards that are just getting worse and worse as this game goes on.
I mean, there was a game I was watching with Jerry where his opponent had 2 or 3 Spell Pierces in hand, but Jerry had 50 mana. Main phase Brainstorm, the best kind. Rug. Or this actually could be at the end of Dan Jordan's turn.
I think it is.
Brainstorm.
We're going to draw 3 cards, try to get out of this clump of whatever's filling up his hand, find some action.
And then we see the Scalding turn there, going to turn that Brainstorm into...
Hopefully Morgan found a Thought Scour to get this party started. Thought Scour is becoming one of my favorite cards in Legacy. I mean, it's not powerful, but like the little things you get to do with it, like ruin their like brainstorm if they brainstorm end of turn but don't crack their fetch.
Right.
Or double submerge into a Thought Scour. That's so much fun.
And Morgan wants one of those cards back. That's very unusual. At this stage in the game to have that many cards, no action, and still want to keep the card.
He actually has the most important permanent in play right now. That is the best card that Morgan has against Esper Stoneblade. So keeping a Nimble Mongoose in play or trying to get it up to threshold, like he might just have a Ponder, is really good.
It's doing some math. Okay, 4 plus 1 card plus another card.
And the Scalding Tarn equals 4 turn clock.
Okay, fetches first.
All right, so Volcanic Island's going to come into play, and maybe he's just going to like ponder Lightning Bolt. I've done that many a time.
Basically making your own Thunderous Wrath.
Like the old upkeep brainstorm miracle. There's Ponder.
See a Spell Pierce in Dan's hand.
I think this is interesting play, especially since he like cracked the fetch and he's going to Ponder. It doesn't mean he's going to go for Threshold, but yeah, like he could, like Morgan is going to Lightning Bolt here if he has a Lightning Bolt, and Dan can just Spell Pierce that. Unless, because the Ponder's going to have a Daze. And Dan pays. And so...
And then that's enough to make Morgan have Threshold.
Why wouldn't he still...
the Ponder...
I wonder why he's like, he wants to hold the mana up. I guess he's like, doesn't want Dan to like slam something big. So Morgan must have some Pierces in his hand.
Ponder.
And Morgan didn't play a land that turn either, right? He could have just replayed the land?
Yes.
Interesting.
He might have forgotten that he hadn't played a land.
Yeah.
I mean, he put a land into play by fetching it, and that physical motion, maybe he thought he played a land already.
Yeah, I agree.
Ponder. Snapcaster there. Main phase, looking for another something. What you got there?
Yeah, I mean, Morgan does not have Spell Snare in his deck, so he won't be contemplating over that. And like, I mean, at least now, maybe Morgan didn't know what matchup he was in yet.
Yeah.
Like, he would assume that it was the control matchup, but maybe it was Miracles or something, because he not paying for that Ponder seems a little strange to me.
And Morgan with, was that 3 cards? No, more than that, like 4 maybe.
Oh yeah, he's got a ton.
And we have the fetch here from Dan Jordan. Underground Sea.
And let's see what's in it.
Inquisition.
There has to be a Spell Pierce, right?
What do you got, Morgan? I mean, if you were going to force a will this before, I bet you're not going to let it happen now. Oh, Brainstorm.
No.
Heidi.
I'm very shocked that there wasn't a Spell Pierce.
And Dan Jordan's deck is being cut now. Inquisition, just so you don't think Morgan's cutting his own deck. It's not what's happening. That's Dan's deck. Morgan, thinking now, what will this Inquisition have to do? He's got Brainstorm to hide 2 cards.
Yes, that's the one thing that I learned right away when Legacy came around, was discard is sometimes good when you need it, but it's not a great, it doesn't have a huge impact on the format because you can just Brainstorm and put 2 cards back.
And 2 cards back. And we see Pierce Daze.
I guess there's no point in piercing it? Yeah, I guess
Just
not.
information.
Yeah, in case.
I would have actually pierced it. Just
Yes,
give
because
him
then
no
he
information.
he could go land Stoneforge if he had it.
Untap. Draw. What's the secret?
I don't know. Maybe it's a Fork Bolt. That would be really good right now.
In.
No, just in, and should just jump block.
Block. And Path. Mana
Path
acceleration.
my own guy. All right, I can get behind that.
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with Morgan dazing this for mana.
Yes.
There's not much opportunity for him to be able to do it now or do it
and
later.
especially since his opponent's going to float mana.
Yeah.
And plus, since there's a Spell Pierce, like, I don't know if Morgan is playing around the Jace. And obviously with full information, we know we should do that so we can, like, counter the Jace. But, well, actually holding it, I would rather hold it with full information, because then if he just slams it, you can just daze and pierce. But I think it's a pretty clear to daze this, just since Dan is going to waste 2 cards. If your opponent's willing to do this, it's probably important.
Whoa.
What?
Whoa.
I must not be good.
Well, I mean, it's been a couple of years, Brad.
It has.
Got some rust on the old battleship.
Because if that is the play, if that is the correct play, I'm blown away.
I mean, if you look at this, Morgan stopped that path there.
He did. He stopped it dead. All right, Dan draws a 4th land, or 6th land, can't play anything into Spell Pierce Daze. And I bet Dan is just like, is he a Stone Cold Master? Wasting a Lightning Bolt there? So I can't resolve this Jace?
Dan down to 5. Jace.
All right, he's got to force something.
Step 1.
Spell Pierce.
Pay it. Step 2.
Return land.
So much we can do. Go ahead. Gosh, a bolt. Bolt would be good.
Well, I mean, if he did do that, Jace would have gotten a Brainstorm. So, I can't agree with Morgan's line, but it's not. I'm not angry about it anymore.
Goif. Does Dan
Goif,
have any? That's it. Okay. To game 2, Dan Jordan brings in Path to Exile, Engineered Explosives, Wrath of God. Wow, Wrath of God.
That might come in.
I wouldn't mind it.
I mean, it is a permanent answer for Nimble Mongoose, but you already have 3 Engineered Explosives.
I mean, I don't mind going overkill on a deck that really doesn't have very many threats.
That is true. All right, so over in Morgan's sideboard, he has 2 Surgicals and 3 Ancient Grudge. He didn't see any Stoneforge Mystics, but he should assume they're there. And he just board all 3 Stoneforge, or 3 Ancient Grudges in, because there's no real way for Dan to win besides an army of Lingering Souls tokens. And that sometimes can get the job done, but...
Do you think that means that Scavenging Ooze comes in just to potentially take care of that?
Yeah, I actually like just cutting 2 Tarmogoyfs and bringing in the 2 Scavenging Oozes. Like, Tarmogoyf is a very weak threat. They have Path and Swords to Plowshare. And so it's fine, but it's nowhere near as powerful as a Scavenging Ooze. It deals with their Snapcasters, their Lingering Souls.
Snapcaster is nice.
Yeah. I can see him bringing in the Surgicals. I don't think they're terrible in this matchup, but they're, like, you want to cut, like, I guess it's difficult because there's not a lot of things you can cut out of a Rug deck, especially in this matchup. You definitely want your Dazes and some number of Lightning Bolts just to interact with our Stoneforge Mystics. So I guess you can just cut all the forces and maybe a Spell Pierce, but that doesn't seem right either.
I mean, Force of Will.
You should have access to a couple forces.
Yeah, just to keep them honest, to stop some sort of significant card from happening in a mid-game.
Yeah.
And you know what? You've got Brainstorms to get rid of it. You've got Brainstorms to find it.
That's exactly it. So, if I was a guessing man, I'm going to say that Morgan is going to cut 2 Force of Wills and 2 Fork Bolts. No, I guess I'd keep Fork Bolts. Probably cut like 3 Lightning Bolts, 2 Force of Wills for 3 Ancient Grudge, a Scavenging Ooze, and...
Red Blast?
And he's got 3 Rebs, so we need Rebs too. Alright, I don't have a clue how he's going to sideboard. He has so many cards to bring in. He probably just does 2 Grudges. There's no way he brings all 3 Grudges in.
3 Grudges is a lot of Grudge.
It's so good in this matchup, though.
I mean, Batterskull, Jite.
Yeah, like, you can actually just, like, kill all of their threats.
And, you know, it's not unreasonable for Dan Jordan to drop down an Engineered Explosives and not have the mana to destroy it right away, and have an Ancient Grudge come in and ruin his day.
Yeah, I'm not a Legacy expert, so I don't know the deck list, but I think Engineered Explosives is...
That's pretty tech, actually.
Yeah, it is tech. I've never seen it.
I think I've seen it sometimes as a one-of, usually in a trinket target.
Yeah, I have seen it in different decks in this format. I haven't seen it in
I've not seen it in
Blade
this
yet.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Did you do some reveal?
I did see Kenny Castor walking by Dan, and now I'm curious if he won or not.
I mean, that's a good sign, right? Kenny walking over towards the judges area?
No, he was walking over towards the buyers, since he works in acquisitions.
Oh, okay. I thought he might have gone over to the...
No.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Dan Jordan on the right here. No stranger to success at the Star City Games Open Series. Usually, though, he wins with a different color set, but he has been leaning towards Esper in Legacy for, it seems like, some time. Morgan McLaughlin on the left, up 1 game.
Yeah.
Island, go.
The first couple turns from the Rug side really dictate how this matchup's going to go, unless Dan has a Stoneforge Mystic, and that's a beating. But I don't think, he doesn't have a 1-drop. Dan doesn't have a 2-drop, so we're in for another long haul.
Yep. I think I see Explosives, Jace, Brainstorm, Tundra, Fetchland from Dan Jordan.
There should be one more card in there.
Yeah, there is, but I couldn't quite catch it.
I think it was the Swords.
Mountain Goat, Volcanic Island.
Mountain Goat?
Yes.
Does Trading Post make these?
Yes.
Oh my god.
I'm kind of sad that Trading Post doesn't make sheeps.
Yeah, like taking the sheep to slaughter and like trading. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think they should make sheeps too.
Inspired by you, I made a red Trading Post deck. So thank you.
Galvblast is so good.
It is pretty good. Galvblast for 4. Ooh, zingy. Morgan McLaughlin now has access to both of his colors of mana, and 2 of them are going to be used to try to make a Tarmogoyf. Does it work?
It should work since he'll have easy removal. Alright, so we do not have a Lingering Souls. Dan's a little nervous. Doesn't like how this game's going.
3rd land. Mystic?
No.
Explosives for 2.
Let's get some removal on board.
Wrath of God in hand. Sunburst at 2. Summons a Force of Will from Morgan McLaughlin's hand.
And Dan is fine with that. Like,
Yep.
You overlord on removal, Morgan has to protect his creatures. You just beat them down the attrition game.
I think that's another Engineered Explosives in Dan's hand.
Yeah, it is.
Wrath, Explosives, Land, Brainstorm, Jace. And we have a Delver of Secrets from Morgan. In for 3.
Yes. Not many times you see the artifact instant land and not against Affinity.
Wasteland the Tundra?
You bet, yeah.
There we go. Still 3.
Alright, so...
Fetch land. Main phase Brainstorm.
Interesting to main phase of Brainstorm.
Best kind of Brainstorm.
Alright. Found
And
another day.
It's a island,
Or another
Jace, Wrath of God. Putting back a Jace, putting back something else.
I actually, don't you want to put away a Wrath of God and shuffle it maybe? Or no, I guess one of the Jaces is better to shuffle away? Yeah, you want to keep both Wraths.
Explosives, Wrath, Jace, Island, Mystery Meat. Looks like Jace and something goes away.
And now...
Fetches.
I wouldn't be surprised to see an EE for 1 or 0. Just to keep this board under control.
I don't mind EE for 0. I mean, if you're Dan Jordan...
You're probably just going to EE for 2.
Yeah, that's fair too. That's actually super fair. You don't want to hang out too long trying to get the best card advantage because you could just die. It could just be over.
This is a very scary board for Dan right now. Like, Morgan has 2 threats. All of Dan's removal is very slow. And who knows what Morgan has. I do believe he doesn't have an Ancient Grudge, just for the fact that he, like, snapped Force Willed that and didn't think about, like, just blowing it up during his turn. So...
Are we going to see a counterspell here?
Yeah,
Spell Pierce?
pretty sure.
Brainstorm in response. Looking for perhaps a daze?
Dig for days, find Ancient Grudge. I always love when those kind of things happen. You like are looking for an answer and you just find a card that's just better.
And that is a resolved engineered explosives. Delver says Ancient Grudge. I would have liked to have seen Dan's face.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Wasteland.
All right, so
oh boy,
this looks pretty rough for Dan. All right, so in for 7. Ancient Grudge gets rid of the engineered explosives. Wastelands gets rid of the Tundra.
it's a quasi time walk there with that
the
Wasteland.
turn starts over, except Delver has flipped into an Insectile Abomination.
Yep. I think I see a Caracas there, and a Go. Yikes.
And he did draw another white source. 2 white sources down. Definitely hurts Dan. He would have been able to just start slamming Wrath of Gods. Alright, in for 7. Now Dan is in Lightning Bolt range, so hopefully, even if this board stabilizes, now there's just a threat of ever top decking a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah.
Ancient Grudge is a really good Magic card.
Yes, it is. You know, looking at Dan there, the eyebrow raise. Well, that was a pretty good one. Land, go. Vendilion, click, go to 1. He's got maybe a Path or a Swords. So, okay, Snapcaster. Does it resolve?
I don't think Morgan won't have any ways to stop this from resolving. He might be able to stop the Brainstorm that Dan's going to play, but he can't stop the Snapcaster from resolving.
Oh, you know, Dan's still asking.
Yeah. And Morgan's still thinking.
Yep. Okay, block. Brainstorm. Please give me a Path to Exile or Swords to Plowshares. Oh, that didn't look like a happy face.
Does Dan ever have a happy face, though?
I've seen him smile.
He's pretty serious.
And he says that's it.
You got Brainstorm locked.
2 cards that I'm going to put back don't seem to be winners.
Yeah. A Lingering Soul's never had a big impact on the game. And that's what happens. Those are the cards. Like, Dan's deck really has no real way to beat Morgan's if he doesn't draw some early Stormforges or Lingering Souls.
Right,
Just
right.
like the removal's not good enough. You can't just beat a Delver deck just with solely removal.
Oh, poor Dan. For those of you who are just joining us, this is the last round, round 8 of 8. 216 players here today. And Morgan looks like he just made the top 8 with Dan
Yes.
Jordan being